My name is Robert Aldis. For many years, I've been working in technology in the financial services. I'm in relatively senior roles at Standard and Poor's, the rating agency, HSBC, Deutsche Bank, and on the stock exchange and various other financial organizations, all based in the city and there and thereabouts. I've been doing that for the best part of 35, maybe even 40 years. About a year and a half ago, I made a sort of a decision about how I wanted to continue my career and invest in my time, and decided to make some changes. So I guess again about a year and a half ago, I really sort of was beginning to feel, did I really want to continue with the corporate life? I was working at the stock exchange and things are going well. I had some very successful projects there. And in terms of, was I under pressure to leave? Well, no. I mean, to the point that even the project I was working on, I got encouragement from my boss there that I could take some work fewer days a week. So there's a lot of flexibility in order to keep me there. And indeed, I probably made a decision probably the year prior that I was going to leave. I mean, I sort of checked out my financial situation, which was, thankfully, I've been reasonably lucky in terms of, my savings over the years to be able to make some of those changes. And so in discussion with my boss, I'll study another project, actually interestingly with the whole OpenAI, the guys out in Microsoft in Seattle, with all those new technologies that I kind of felt, do I really have the energy to reinvest in all these new people, these new systems, these new technologies coming up to the age of 60? And really made the decision that I've really had enough. I had enough of the corporate life. I wanted something different in my life. Life is short, all those kinds of things. And financially, I probably had enough to survive. And that was, to be honest, in discussion with the financial advisors as well. So it wasn't just me making that call. So I would say, having resigned from that job, there was definitely a period of now what? And I was doing a lot of soul searching. And I would say, I definitely had a period of, who am I? What am I? Who am I? What am I about? What now drives me? How do I interact with peers, people who know me? Because I had no job. And I think all of us have that experience, whether we either leave our job voluntarily or through redundancy or any other means. And I definitely went through a period of struggling with that. And I would say that probably took the best part of a year. But during that year, and in discussions with, and had my own, I'd say now, has some personal therapy, which I was having alongside, which I thought has always been useful to me. That whole idea of psychotherapy as being an alternative sort of life direction, pivot, if you will, was, made sense. And I decided to actually investigate how I could become a psychotherapist, and then realized it could take up to 5 years of training, particularly if you want to do it properly and really properly through some of the world's kind of best training providers in this country. So that was a real kind of swallowing moment. Can I, at the age of 60, go back to school or college for 5 years of training and invest in all that as well, because it doesn't come for free. I would say, Lucy, I decided that that's what I wanted to do. And I'm now into my second year of that 5-year journey. It hasn't been easy, but I feel more, this is where I need to be. This is what's right for me. And, and we had to make some budgeting decisions. We aren't going to go on fancy holidays anymore and all that kind of stuff and cut back. But I feel it's worth it. And I've still got a way to go before I hopefully, complete. I mean, for me, and again, I would say I've done this with some, again, talking, is starting to break apart what is sort of the external kind of struggle or the external need, which is to get a profile, a position, a salary, the corporate ladder, if you will, and success in that sense, through, I guess, the internal piece, which is what's that internal journey, what's the real motivation, the person who I really am, what really feeds me psychologically and emotionally, and sometimes, unfortunately, those two don't come together. We seek kind of success because that's what's expected of us. That's what the world out there thinks and expects of us. But actually, does that really hit home? And that's the journey. And I think it's a journey we all go on, and it's something we all kind of. There's never a point in time where it's complete. And but I think that's really is basically, and I guess age is another thing, where you say, well, I'm done with that. I don't really need the kind of the job title anymore. I was kind of reasonably successful, I guess, if you were putting, but not, massively so, but I did okay in my chosen career. But I think that's probably the main thing, if you want where the penny's dropped. Yeah. Case in point, I mean, so the first year we had one of our seminars, and there's about 30 people in the first year, all in a room, and one woman, although she's said it through tongue in cheek, called me grandpa. So I mean, she was in her mid-50s, so she was massively younger than me. So I was definitely the oldest in the room, and that still takes effort. It doesn't come naturally that you suddenly become completely unaware of your age. Or at least I'm certainly in my case. But you realize that actually, with age does come experience, does come knowledge, does come, encounters that, younger people haven't had. And I know with Brave Starts, that's very much the message, but that really is the case, and dare I say, people kind of defer because of your experience and life journey. And I would say, so definitely my engagement in that first year was among the most kind of fulsome. I mean, I spoke a lot because I felt I had stuff to talk about, stuff to offer. Whereas I think some younger people felt, I guess, was still, they have their own anxieties, their own kind of fears of speaking. But it's important. Age brings, I dare say, not always wisdom, but definitely brings experience, and that is of value. Yeah, that is of value. Yeah, I mean, obviously it's always easy to kind of say the government should fund this, government should fund that. But I guess generally in terms of policy, I think, we all are, I think, none of us are completely immune to anxieties, confidence issues, things that prevent us from being the person that we would like to be or feel that we want to be. And, energy comes from when you start finding that. And anything that can be done through a therapeutic or whatever that might be, or coaching service that can bring some of that out of us, I think will bring the real energy that we all have, even when we're in our most kind of desperate situation, or kind of when we feel that things aren't going right. But we all have this energy, and it's important that there are policies and processes in place that help us, kind of find some of that. Yeah, I mean, yeah, sometimes it does require us to invest in ourselves, and whether through private means as well. But a good government policy should really be embracing that.
Yeah. Sounds to me like you're saying that the government should be helping to fund a little bit towards Brave Starts.
Well, yeah, completely. I mean, it's so it's interesting because the one of the reasons I thought about therapy, and I guess psychotherapy and counselling is we're all trying to find some route out of what's AI going to be AI impacted. I think if even the professional service is going to be impacted by AI, who's going to be doing conveyancing now? And it can all be done through some AI module, or whatever. And I do think whilst there are applications out there, which kind of people use today in terms of providing some kind of counselling, but I think there'll always be a need for face-to-face, human-to-human contact. And it's really, I would say, anything that I think people should invest time and effort on is within that domain, because hopefully for me, once I qualify, I have 10 years, maybe 15, maybe 10 years of
I would say at least 15, 20.
Yeah,
Why
yeah, yeah.
not?
Well, that's in my 80s, but and I think we all want to have some purpose.